So, congrats on the new album. As a first time delver into your catalog, it's actually really refreshing for me to listen to.
Oh,
So,
oh, that's interesting.
and it's out April 19th through Nuclear Blast. A Mortal Binding. How are you feeling now? It's delivered to the record company, and you're in the perpetual state of wait.
Yes, that's you obviously understand musicians. The waiting part is kind of it's refreshing because it's new. We're not working on it. We're just talking about it now. Uh, we haven't had a lot of feedback. I certainly haven't had a lot of feedback. Your nice words just then obviously help calm me down because it suggests that we haven't made a complete dud. And if you're new to the genre or new to the band as well, that also helps because most of our, I would say, our fans are quite rabid. You know, they're probably going to like this. You know, not saying that we could record anything, but they would probably enjoy this. So this sort of pregnant pause, if you will,
Yeah.
where it's we know it's coming. We know something's coming. We don't really know what. We don't know how the album's going to be received. We're relatively confident, but I suppose you have to be. Uh, so I don't. There's a little bit of apprehension, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as much as I'm relaxed and I'm happy that the heavy lifting's done, as we say now. You know, the album was rehearsed and it's fully recorded, so I can. You sort of sit back, but then you're all you can. Man, April the 19th can't come fast enough. Can we just get on with
Yeah.
this? And that kind of thing. So I'm enjoying these interviews. I haven't really done. I mean, I tend to do a few each album, but I've done more this time, and I'm kind of finding my feet with them, which has been good fun.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, it is what it is, as we say.
Now, been two singles released so far. Funnily enough, they're the shortest songs on the album. Is that why they were picked as a single?
Predominantly, yes. We had problems, good problems, where none of the when Nuclear Blast asked us originally, right, we're going to do two videos, or we'd like to do two videos. Uh, yeah, you choose them, and we couldn't collectively choose which song. We had a vote, and we couldn't really figure it out. We were all choosing different songs, so we let Nuclear Blast choose, and obviously they went with a shorter song, which was the Thornwyck Hymn originally. I think most of us really wanted to do the Apocalyptist, but we was it's 11 minutes long, and we knew really we were never getting away with that. So the other one that I kind of pushed on, and we got some backing from the rest of the guys, was the Second of Three Bells, mainly because, but it's not a length. Well, the length helps. It's videoable, if you will. It's releasable in that sense.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of represents those that know My Dying Bride as much as it isn't obvious to them. It's kind of like home territory.
Yeah.
And also what it does is kind of, in my mind, this is just my opinion, it leads them into a bit of a false sense of security because it doesn't represent the rest of the album.
Yep.
So I'm not saying it's a trap, but it's it's just felt interesting to me, and I just love the song. I particularly love the back end of the song where we do the funeral march out. I just think it's very, I think we played for it and we got it. Uh, so I just like the song. The rest of the guys said, yeah, we'll do that. We'll make it. We'll do our best for that one. So, but the length is clearly a part of why.
Yeah.
But the first one that was just record label saying, look, this is a good song. Do this one because it's it's okay. And we got to choose the second one a little bit
It's
more
funny,
bang.
even though you do have a track that's 11 minutes long, I actually do agree that it could be a great single and it could almost be made into like a little mini movie with some additions. So
Yeah,
maybe Nuclear Blast might want to have a think about that.
yeah. Well, I mean, you can sort of appreciate their mindset. I mean, they're playing it safe. They're doing what the industry does. They're doing what, and I think they probably know more about the market than we do. We're
Yeah.
just playing a band. We don't really know. They analyze across all of their artists, if you will, what works. And I imagine that shorter songs, particularly in today's world where we have instant access and we can move platforms and we can move interests at a click of a button, quite or on your phone, having an 11-minute song might seem a challenge for some people to. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm kind of old school. It doesn't bother me. But
Yeah.
if their marketing team go, no, you're never getting a 16-year-old kid to listen to that. You're just not. They'll click off in the intro.
Sure.
So But my idea was to actually we do what's called lyric videos now
Yes.
in the industry. Why not have someone, give them the lyrics, give them the essence of the song, and say, do an 11-minute lyrical video to that, with the imagery and the background and that kind of thing, really. And some of these guys are clever. And yeah, okay, it costs what? Well, you'd be into the thousands, at least one.
Yeah.
But it could be done, and I think it would look cool. So we may go down that route.
Well, and think about that. You're almost 35 years into your career. Back when you started, you wouldn't have even, like, computers were barely a thing. And now they're such an integral part of not just consuming music, promoting music, but even making music. Did you ever think back then that that's how it'd be? Oh, a lyric video.
Absolutely not. No, I mean, when we started this, if you had a 4-track that played normal cassettes, you were classed as high tech. You were beyond most people's recording abilities, and we would you just had to remember the songs. You went to rehearsal and you went away and you had to know them. That was as simple as that. So no one could have predicted the level. I mean, I certainly couldn't. The level of technology, and even though we had myself and Aid, the original bass player, bought PCs early on. All I did on mine was play Doom. I didn't buy it for anything else.
Yeah.
And going back, and this should shock some people, I upgraded it from 8 meg of RAM, to 16, and I was classed as a god.
Yep. Yeah.
With 60, so I mean, times have really sort of rushed on, but the ease that I can't complain too much about technology. I'm not that foolish to think it's not enhancing things. It makes life so much easier to create these things, but it also brought. I do think the attention level might have degraded somewhat with people's ability to focus, if you will, because they know they can look somewhere else, and it's that constant looking that sort of moves people on. So I understand why we've done these things, but no one, to answer your question, no one could have predicted the level. I mean, look at us now, a full fat interview on 2 sides of the globe.
Yeah.
So and not to upset the flat earthers.
And look, and also don't take anything away from a Tascam 4-track with a cassette. As long as you had a pencil handy in case it ate the tape, you were good.
Yeah, ours was a Tascam, believe it or not. That was one we had.
I had a Tascam 4-track as well.
Yeah,
never let me down.
Yeah, we recorded some, because we had it set where we accidentally recorded it backwards once, and we had a song that was in reverse, and we're like, there's something to that. Shall we use that? I'm like, no, and I'll give it. We would experiment with things, but even that, so we decided not to use that. But then it was worked out that it would only play one way. We were just kids; we didn't really know what we were doing. It was interesting stuff.
Did you ever stick a boombox in the corner of your rehearsal hall to record your rehearsals? Yeah. See?
Yeah, straight. It had it was an older, we got stereo back then, and had a tiny mic about so big with 2 little microphones that come off it like that in a Y shape. And we would muffle it by putting padding around it, because we refused to turn down, because that would be blasphemy.
Yeah, exactly.
So we covered the microphone in sponge and went that way. So and that was high tech back then for us. Man, it seems so simple now.
Yeah. Well, when did you start the process of writing for this album?
Around October 2021 was a date that we can officially sort of recognize that riffs we had were being formulated by me here into what would then become the songs on this album. But the actual boots on the ground, if it were, we really got into this, and we rehearsed heavily for this, was the beginning of the middle of 2022, June the 7th. We recorded a load of them on GoPro.
Wow. Okay.
So we've got loads of that to edit, because we say things that can't go out on the internet, and there's no HR in My Dying Bride, and there's no political correct officer. You know what I mean? You get real people.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, but you're not allowed to say anything anymore, so we'd have to edit a lot of it out. So
now,
we heavy duty in June 22.
So obviously pre-production is so important for My Dying Bride. Do you think that too many bands rely on the studio trickery rather than the actual pre-production now?
I think I don't know the answer to that overall, but I think what they may be doing is potentially a lot of bands don't have, I mean, we don't have a massive budget for this, and we didn't have a lot of time. So the problem that maybe they're being pushed into not being allowed to think it, because pre-production is basically thinking it through, planning it out,
Yeah.
what works, how's it going to work. And we didn't always do that. I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to pretend that we've done it. We've done it on the last three, but we didn't always do that. Because the rehearsals in many respects are your pre-production. But what we like to do now is record them as demos, because then you get to really hear if the song works. And we class that type of pre-production is really useful. And if anybody has the opportunity to record just rough demos in the studios or somewhere, do that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be able to comment on other people's. I mean, because I know how hard it is. We call it herding cats, because getting 6 people anywhere near each other collectively and relatively sort of on time and regularly, that's tough. That's hard, especially when they've got their own jobs and their own lives to consider as well. So pre-production might be just one of those. It might be a luxury for us. We might not realize that.
Now, as a main songwriter in the band, I'm sure there are times where you've got something mapped out in your head, but then getting it to work is a bit of a different story. What song was the biggest pain in the ass for you?
I think the one we chopped up, I think we rewrote Unthroned Creed at least 3 times. There was a section of riffs that they're all still in there, but just in different orders now. And we could not, there was something about it that just didn't sit right with the band, and we couldn't quite work it out. So we kept putting it back, and then we would start with you sort of walk down the riffs, and I don't know, whatever riff 3 was, we'd say, well, let's start with that one, see if that's up, because sometimes the magic can happen with strange ideas in rehearsal room. But I reckon Unthroned Creed was one of the tricky ones, and it's proved to be a solid song now. But it took some doing. We had to really think about that one. But there's then in that also there's a riff that we had to write that's been with us since we've done an album 2 albums ago called Feel the Misery, and the riff that's now finally in this album and on that song started there, and we just couldn't make it fit. And there's about 8 songs on Feel the Misery, and there's about 8 songs on Ghost of Orion, and it wouldn't fit anyway. We just couldn't make it work, but we managed to make it work here. It was so, yeah, you're right in that sort of recognizing that there are some songs that just don't want to play.
Yeah. So I was going to say, do you think as your career has progressed, it's actually gotten harder to make records now? No, easier.
It's the mechanics of it is much easier, and maybe that's through experience, because we go pretty prepared now. We know what to expect, but also recording on Pro Tools has made life very easy. I mean, particularly with drums, because whereas with drums you would have to re-record drums, you don't now. Pro Tools can fix those minor things that bug you.
Yeah.
And it may just be that a cymbal catches a stick catches a cymbal on the way up. We can all hear it. It starts to embed that you can hear it all the time, and that's all you can hear. But Pro Tools can fix that now, whereas before you'd have to re-record the whole thing.
Sure.
Those days have gone. So I think from the actual engineering point of view, far easier. It hasn't made you lazy. You've still got to know your songs. You've still got to be precise. You've got to be, and we're very disciplined at that. When we record, we actually record to a horrible sound, which is so clean that it's absolutely no fun whatsoever. I mean, no one could enjoy this sound, but you can tell when you're not on the note, on the beat and correct, So, because obviously, I think the beauty of heavy metal is once you press the distortion pedal in rehearsal room, you can do anything and it sounds great. You know what I mean? It's just put some drums underneath and off you go.
Yep.
But you can't record like that. So I would say without doubt easier, much easier.
Okay. Now, and the landscape of the industry is completely different than when you formed in 1990. A lot of bands really struggle to embrace it, but while I found that personally I might be looking in the wrong places, you don't seem to be huge on social media. The band itself has a nice presence. Do you think that's important, that bands have the right kind of presence, not just a presence?
I'm I'm of the age that obviously you probably recognize how old the band is, and I'm so I'm no spring chicken. What I loved, how do I phrase this? I liked the mystery. When I started getting into this band, I was getting into music. I was a big fan of Meatloaf for a while. I mean,
Okay.
I still am. In fact, it's what I've been playing on my way to work this week. So I'm still a big fan. But I got into Kiss heavily, and it took me years to collect their catalog. You know what I mean? Because when I joined Kiss Army and all that kind of stuff, they already had 23 albums out or something. It's like fucking hell. So I was late to the game there. And then, as much as you wanted to know everything about them, even finding a book on Kiss was hard. So I bought books, and I bought all the. I mean, Man Alive, I did all the things that Kiss fans do, but I loved the mystery, and only now as a sort of later on, I realized that I can learn so much now about Kiss that I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know that they were falling out right in the Dynasty album. I didn't even know they were falling out. I don't want to know that. I wanted the dream to be the dream. So for me, the social media aspect pulls away a veneer of mystery and a little bit of, it allows people in, I think, far too close.
Yep.
But you're right. I don't have a social media account. I mean, I'm proud to say that I've never had a Facebook account. Never will. I despise the platform, but I recognize its use for My Dying Bride, and I actually talked into that. It was a friend of mine that said, "No, you're all right. You're correct. Don't get one, fine, but you're going to need one for the band." And she was right. A good friend of mine called Sheridan. So the band has one of those, and it works brilliantly. We'd never be without it now. But I think it just, I think without realizing it, a lot of people are asking for things that they don't really understand. And this is not to denigrate anybody. For me, this is me actually, I suppose. I like the mystery. I don't need to know all the horror stories of how they grew up and why they were so poor and whether this, that, or other took. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I was into Kiss, I liked the mystery, and I thought it was just a band and a group that was, I thought they were brilliant. I mean, I loved them, no question about it. And then later on, when you learn all these horrible things, it's taking some of the shine off it now. So I think social media, it has its pluses, but I think for bands, I think they sometimes give too much away, and I'm not convinced I might be wrong. I mean, I'm happy to be wrong as well. I'm not convinced it's completely useful or completely useful to a band to tell everybody everything about everything you're doing all the time.
No,
I mean,
I agree completely.
So, well, thank God for that. I just thought it was me being an old cantankerous bastard.
No, and Kiss are my number one band, and I got my first album in '78, and I severely miss the days of not even knowing an album was coming out, and you walked into a record store and you went, "Oh, there's an album," or buying an album based on the cover. Sorry,
what was your first album? The
Dress
Kiss
to
album?
Kill.
Oh, that's a classic. That. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
that's an interesting one as well, because obviously they look so weird.
yeah,
And then they sort of all dressed in suits and that on the cover of that. That's pretty cool.
yeah, and this I totally agree with what you're saying. Where I now know that they weren't their suits because they didn't own suits, and Paul Stanley's wearing his dad's shoes and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, man, I'm a total Kiss nerd, but I totally don't need to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
so
good sound.
I agree with you completely that there's a time and place to and that you know too much and you need to just stop.
Yeah, for me, it takes some of the fun away as well. I mean, we don't really need to know how many warts on someone's ass they have. It's too much, too close, and I think some of the mystery is removed from it. But I mean, maybe these people, because the people that are using Facebook at this level, they clearly must like it, or maybe they're just desperate for things to read or look at. I don't know. For me, I would remove it back. We've done, oddly enough, we've done more social media stuff for this album than we ever have. And I try to avoid them in many respects, but I've been drawn, I mean, and I've had fun doing it, particularly behind the scenes. We've done some behind the scenes footage for the second of Three Bells, which has been quite fun.
Yeah.
Just to let people know that, okay, yeah, because people ask us, are we really that miserable all the time? And obviously we're not. You know what I mean? It's theatre still.
Yes.
And some of the behind the scenes footage shows us laughing and giggling like kids. Because we're fucking about like kids, and it's great fun.
And that's the thing, because I did go and watch some of that footage, and there's almost that, I hate to use the term, but it's like a Clark Kent Superman kind of thing where you can take your office clothes off and go into something else, and you don't have to be a certain thing all the time. And I think, you guys have done a great job of being the people in the band and then showing the behind the scenes people, which is really great, and we need a lot more of that.
Well, I think that the difference is we recognised early on that the music is a facade. It is a theatre. It's a projection. It's entertainment. Now, the beauty of that, from behind the scenes, behind the curtain, if you will, is that we actually mean this. When we're writing songs and we're writing this music, we're not doing this under duress. This is what we sound like when we get going. And once we're going, the sort of clouds forming and those kind of things, and the mist rolls in, and you get a My Dying Bride. But once you put the guitar down and you're not doing that, you get regular people that have regular senses of humor, some of them more extreme than others. And it's fun, you know what I mean? It's just a great bunch to be with. But once the music starts, the essence of what My Dying Bride is suddenly comes up, and it's very, very different.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that we don't have fun doing that, because we do, obviously. But this, it would be disingenuous of me to pretend that I am that. I do that, and I mean to do it. It's not an accident, but I'm not that miserable. In fact, I wouldn't be able to write those riffs when I'm miserable. I have to be in a good mood for all of that.
Yeah. Now, taking it on the road, what are you guys going to do in the way of scheduling live dates?
Well, at the moment, we don't do many gigs anyway, and this year will probably be the same. So we don't have a mortal binding world tour or anything planned like that. The gigs come, and if we can get there, we tend to go do them. But this year, there's a couple of people three people in the band that have side projects that they're going to be working on as well. So that might actually thin out gigs further.
Sure.
I'm not sure. So, but we have to be fair with that. The side projects is normal now, so you've just got to take that on the chin. So there's no immediate and sort of definite plans of anything. We because we're not full time, My Dying Bride sort of musicians. We all have normal jobs.
Yep.
That, as you can fully probably appreciate, that takes its toll. You can only do so much before you employ your section. We all need as jobs because blah blah blah. We're not kids anymore, and we're not living with us parents. So sadly, the realities of real life creep in. So nothing major, nothing. I'm not going to pretend there's any sort of major tours on, because there aren't. We'll just, if we can get to a show or we can get to a couple of dates in wherever, we will. But it's all very ad hoc.
Okay. Now, did I read online that you may actually already be recording new stuff as well?
Yes, we've got an EP coming out soon. I don't know when. There's no dates on that. With 2 songs, and we're working on the third. In fact, I had some strange ideas appear to me yesterday that I didn't manage to get them on the guitar. But we're working on a third song. We normally do like 2 songs and then an atmospheric or an eclectic type of experimental song. And we don't want to do that this time. We just want to have 3 solid, I won't say rock and roll songs, but you know what I mean, 3 normal band style songs.
Yep.
So we're just working on the third, working on just working on the whole thing, working on the cover, the lyrics of the music.
Sure.
There's no panic for that, because Nuclear Blast they're really good to us. They're not leaning on us in any way for dates and times and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, we're 2 songs in, that they're pretty much done, and the third's on its way.
Awesome. Now, again, we're heading into less than 3 weeks till release. What do you want to let your fans in Australia or around the world know about Immortal Binding?
Well, I think for those that don't know the band, this is probably a good starting point. But then again, it's difficult for me to say. Well, I'll just say that for that. But the actual long-term fans that know the band, they're not. I don't think they're going to be surprised by this. It's going to sound like a return to form. I think it's very much by design. We kind of deliberately kept it simple. We made big riffs, designed big riffs to allow death metal vocals. And I'm not going to pretend it's Turn Loose the Swans, because it's not. So please don't think it's that. But it is for me a return to some old style thinking. of basically, hey, going back to Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. So it's so how ironic. So it's for fans that know the band. I reckon they're probably going to enjoy this one, and it's a departure from the last one because I just thought that was far too miserable even for us. And there's a bit more to this. There's a bit more heart in it, a bit more life, even though it's still very much My Dying Bride.
I'll add one more thing to that. It's got a lot more breath. Because listening to this and going back into the back catalogue, it's got a really nice breath to it. You feel the air in the songs.
Yeah, it's weird you should say that because I was sent just before this interview, Lena sent me a review, the first review I've seen, and it actually says that the instruments have room to breathe. Now I've never heard that before. And then suddenly I read it minutes ago, and then you're backing that up. Did you review?
No, but as someone that really loves to hear the individual parts, that's what I mean by hearing the breath in it. Like nothing is over compressed on top of each other and just squashed down. You can hear the sounds. That
could be when we were recording this. I was talking. The album was recorded by an engineered and produced by Mark Miner. He's brilliant. I mean, he's a fucking genius, really. And I'm a big fan of reverb and delay to make it cavernous. As far as I'm concerned, we should record just in empty cathedrals, and then just take the pain and just do it. But he has a more sensible, more engineering style mind than mine. So he says, "Oh, we can't do that. That fuck it all up." But I said to him, particularly say like on the clean harmony on the harmony on second of three bells, where the two guitars weave in and out amongst each other. My terminology, as basic as it was I want to be able to hear behind the guitar. It shouldn't be jammed up against the wall. It's got to feel like it's in the space. I'm not sure I use the words allowing it to breathe, but it wouldn't surprise me. So he's actually taken my clumsy instructions, which you're now thankfully hearing as there's air between. You can tell there's singular instruments, and they're allowing them to breathe, which is fantastic. I mean, it's all credit to him for that. Yeah, you do hear the sound, especially in the guitars, where the sound travels off. Like if it, like when I hear a guitar play here an open chord, I want to hear it just sort of travel into the distance without some sort of shitty production noise coming over the top. And this album does not have any shitty production noise. No, anybody who's watching this that's in the UK or nearby who has an opportunity to record with Matt Go, you won't be disappointed. So yeah, we're very pleased with. I mean, he has a, believe it or not, he has a PhD in heavy metal. Awesome. Now I think that's the most heavy metal thing I've ever heard. A PhD, and he teaches music theory, music recording instruction at a university where we did some recording in Huddersfield. No, not even Tony Iommi would have a PhD in heavy metal, so that just shows where he's at. No, but he should be knighted for heavy metal by now. He should be Sir Tony. So along with many others, but still. So yeah, we've been very fortunate there because we get world-class production, but not world-class costs. Otherwise, we'd never be able to use it. That's a great way to finish this interview, Andy. I love it. I'm going to let you go. Congratulations on the album. We are, a few weeks away. Everyone needs to really give it a listen, especially first timers. You'll understand why we're saying what we're saying about the music, but thanks for your time today. Best of luck with the album. And if tours do come off, I hope one of them's down here. Yeah, we're thinking heavily about that. I know the Australians always seem a little bit left out, especially from My Dying Bride. We are concentrating and trying to figure out how we can do that. I promise you we are doing that. So thank you very much for this. It's been great fun. Thank you. Thanks. Have a good day, mate. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.